Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pens, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing.
So we're starting with why Bitcoin then, because we're making the differentiation between Bitcoin and everything else that has ever existed. Every other monetary instrument that humanity has ever encountered, including all other cryptocurrencies, and why Bitcoin's different. And it comes down to the trilemma of decentralization, security, and scalability, where nothing in the history of the world has ever achieved decentralization and security. And Bitcoin was able to achieve decentralization and security through the Immaculate Conception. So Satoshi created the protocol, he gave it to the world, and then the world caught on to it, caught flame, and it grew to the size to where it's sufficiently decentralized, which makes it sufficiently secure. Because there is no single authority that will ever be able to control the network, and there is no single authority that controls the network. So everybody is contributing with rules, and there's no ruler. That's why decentralization is so important, and that's why it is secure.
We are talking about Bitcoin as a monetary system.
Yeah, but the basis of why it works as a monetary system is because it's decentralized and secure.
Right. But I just wanted to note that we have found Bitcoin to be bigger than just a monetary system, or at least
Right.
that we realize money can be bigger than what we think money is.
Right.
But right now we're just talking about Bitcoin as what we know of a monetary system, what the world knows.
Well, we could actually refer to it as property, because like gold is technically property. Your house is your property. So
monetary system, property, asset.
yeah. And we would also like to make clear that this process of discovering and understanding what Bitcoin is like something that we're all trying to figure out together, and that we're just kind of at the forefront of this because we've been obsessed with it for a long time and researching it for a long time. So what we're presenting is really just what we've understood from the work that we've done. We need to explain what it is as to before we can understand why we're early and how the rest of the world needs to or will eventually jump onto the train once they realize what it is. So that's partially why we're early, is because people don't realize what it is. So let's go a little bit deeper in talking about why Bitcoin is so significant and why we're doing all this research, why we're starting our hedge fund so we can help people secure property. And the economic and geopolitical tensions that exist in the world currently is
And in the past.
And what they've proven in the past to be willing to do to take property from the individual. This is why having a decentralized monetary instrument is so important, is because there is no authority that has any ability to take property, take time and energy, take wealth from the individual. So
Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, let's lay out what property rights really
So
are.
if you hold Bitcoin and I want to steal it, why can I not steal it? Or if I'm the government or any entity.
I'm the best hacker in the world.
So there are ways for people to steal Bitcoin that are not secured properly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a cold storage device, which means it's never been connected to Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or anything on the internet where a hacker can identify, then those Bitcoins still exist on the blockchain. So all the Bitcoin are existing on the blockchain. It's just the ability to move it. So if you want to move value on the blockchain, then you have to have access to the keys of the wallet, which is the key to being able to move the Bitcoin.
Right.
So if you have a cold storage device and you have it secured in your home or you have it secured in your brain, then there's no ability to move the Bitcoin that exists on the blockchain unless you have those keys.
Before we go any further, though, can you please go into depth on why you just said it's in your brain? Like, how can you keep it safe in your brain?
Yeah, explain the keys.
Yeah. So a wallet creates a 12-word seed phrase. So every wallet has a unique seed phrase that, like, the probability of replicating 12 words within a seed phrase is like greater than finding the same grain of sand on Earth or something like that. So it's like you're not going to be able to guess a 12-word seed phrase because Bitcoin's network is adaptive. So if quantum computing was capable of harming Bitcoin's network, or if it was capable of destroying it, then that would, first of all, mean that all other computer networks are already compromised, including the U.S. military, because Bitcoin's network, that's just one of the definitions for it, is it's the largest computer network on the planet. And it's also the most secure because it requires energy in order to communicate onto the network or to the network. To send bits of information on the network, you have to send energy with it. Mm-hmm. So it's like why they solved like email spamming. There's no cost to send an email. You can just send infinite emails with AI spamming everybody. Mm-hmm. But once you apply a cost to send that email, you can't just spam everybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, if the technology was capable of harming Bitcoin's network, all of the networks before that are less than Bitcoin, which is every other computer network on the planet, would have been compromised already. But also, that would give people time, that would give us all time to adapt Bitcoin's network so we can apply the technology that secures it against the new technology that we think might harm it or be a threat.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So in order to hack Bitcoin, basically, it'd have to be done in 10 minutes.
No. I mean, I'm not super versed on all of the computer programming language and how it would be hacked, but it's like to change the protocol. It doesn't have to be done in 10 minutes, but every 10 minutes, there's a new block that's going to be mined. So...
But eventually, there will be no more blocks to be mined.
Yeah. No. There'll be no new Bitcoin that will be introduced into the existing supply. So the blocks... There'll be a new block every 10 minutes, no matter what.
Forever?
Yeah, forever.
But there's only 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah. So today, when you mine a block, you get 3.125 Bitcoin reward for mining the block. But that's basically just a subsidy for the miners to incentivize people to mine the block. But as we go into the future, every 4 years, that block reward cuts in half until it gets to zero.
Because that's in the code.
Yeah, it's written in the code, and the code that can't change. So once we get to the point where no new Bitcoin are being introduced to the supply, the reward for the miners is just going to be the fees. The subsidy, which is the new Bitcoin, is no longer going to be introduced. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So then, in terms of changing Bitcoin and why it can never be changed is because the amount of energy that's being contributed to the network is so large that it is inconceivable for anybody to consistently have and maintain 51% of the energy that's being contributed to the network, which is what you would need in order for 51% of the network to choose which lines of code they wish to run on those computers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's basically, and it's also like there's too many people that care about what Bitcoin is right now and want it to stay the same. So they wouldn't choose, like you could get everyone to change, get more than 51% of people to change, but nobody would want that. All of the Bitcoiners right now want it to stay the same.
Well, right. If you're contributing to the network, you want it to still be Bitcoin, because you're spending your resources and contributing your resources to Bitcoin, and you don't want what you contributed to be worthless.
And are you also kind of saying that there is a 0% chance that any majority could ever take control over Bitcoin? It can, basically what you're saying is no majority, 0 majority of people could ever control it. It will always be about the individual.
Well, the majority is who controls it.
It's interesting.
That no single party will ever be able to control the network. I agree with that. Yeah.
I wouldn't say 0 though.
It's just like in The Big Short, like in that movie, when Mark Baum stands up in the middle of the room and he's asking the, conference leader, he's asking the speaker, what are the chances that these default loans will ever be paid back, or, whatever, what are the chances these loans are ever going to be covered? And then the announcer starts to kind of beat around the bush and blah, and Mark Baum interrupts him and goes, 0! There's 0% chance.
Yeah, but it's more like the fact that there's no such thing as 0. Anything can be possible.
I think it's pretty dang close to impossible.
Yeah.
But that I can't foresee like a meteor striking Earth and someone for a split second getting 51% of the network.
Can you compare it like with a value to somebody who would lose money under $250,000 in an FDIC insured bank? Compare it to that risk.
Right.
Because I feel like that's pretty close to 0 enough for me. Compare it to that
Exactly.
risk.
And I think that's a lot of the misconceptions or issues surrounding Bitcoin is people come up with these totally hypothetical scenarios that,
Apocalypto.
Yeah, apocalypto, like, okay, maybe Bitcoin can't withstand that, which it most likely can. Any scenario.
Like if we have no energy, no food and water, how am I going to eat with Bitcoin?
Which we can find a scenario. But yeah, if we just compare it to real world, what we already have right now, it's far better. Like not even comparable almost.
Yeah, so
And that's why it's hard for people to understand, is because they're trying to compare it to either a hypothetical scenario or some old way of thinking, which it's like you can't do that. It's this new thing that you need to open your mind to and just look at it for what it is.
And it's funny because you can actually guarantee that your $250,000 in your FDIC insured account is being taken from you. As
Bit
we
by
sit
bit.
here right now, it is being taken, slowly extracted from you, until we reach a point where they're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take it all.
Well, is it on average every single year it's 7%? So like no matter what, regardless, is your main focus as a human being who stores their wealth in dollars is somehow, some way, you need to figure out how to beat a 7% loss every single year, or else you are literally accepting the fact that your wealth is becoming worth less and less and less.
Yeah, but it's also compound. The interest compounds year over year. So if you get 2% every single year, or more realistically, 7% every single year, like I don't know exactly the math, but it's something like, I don't know, 8 years is 40% of your existing cash. So if you hold 250,000 in an FDIC insured account, we get 7% inflation every year for the next 8 years, which I would say is below what it's going to be.
But the CPI index has been 2 to 3. So explain that to me.
Well, yeah, except for the CPI index is created by the people that are telling you, hey, it's okay, 2%, that's the target, that's what we're going for. But that's because they create the basket of goods that makes up that 2% number, and then they manipulate that basket of goods like, oh, you know what? Food and gas that got too expensive. Let's take that out and replace it with something that didn't go up in value or didn't nominally increase. So then they just turn all these dials until they get it close to 2%. Like, hey, it's 2%.
Is rent or mortgage payment part of CPI?
To be honest, I don't really even know what they put in and take out of that basket because I don't really care.
But it's no. Houses are not part of CPI. Your retirement plan, not part of CPI.
Telling. Well, I think
Because now we have to answer, well,
Because it's technically not zero, even though it's
yeah,
the
we can
most
call it
secure in the
zero.
world.
right. I just wanted to relate it to.
But I think it's fine.
I
Yeah.
think I just wanted to relate it to something that's happened in the financial world. Like, you know, that movie's kind of a big deal. Well, not the movie, but the 2008
happened,
crisis
yeah.
was a monumental deal to our parents, to anyone that had to live through that. And so, I just wanted to make that connection, really.
Mhm.
I think it's a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
well, just in my mind, there's no such thing as 0% chance.
So,
you can say that. Let's be real.
Yeah.
We live in a world of laws, and
Yeah.
one of them is there is no 0%.
Yeah.
but we can then make it clear, like Bitcoin is the most secure monetary instrument that exists on this planet.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
for one, we can call it 0. And 2, compared to everything else, it's 0. We can call it 0.
So then
Absolutely.
we can, that's actually next, because like we can build on what happened in 2008 and how we have all of these bank bailouts.
What were
And-
we talking about even before that?
We only got to like the second, we're on the second topic here. But it's okay.
We were talking about security.
Yeah, so we're still talking about it because
Okay.
the economic and geopolitical tensions, the U.S. debt crisis. So if we were to experience some sort of crisis event like what happened in 2008 and these derivatives exchange markets became insolvent, and this comes from The Great Taking, David Webb, where it's like your securities that exist in your Fidelity, like your IRA, like they are not safe. And people will be like, oh, well, they'll never just take my IRA. That's my IRA. And it's like, well, okay, sure, you can be naive to think that they would never take it, but
You have to acknowledge, like, there's already been evidence with, like, they started taking out people's pension funds, and then even more further back, taking people's gold.
yeah, so 6102, like they literally said, give us your gold, or you're going to jail for 10 years or being fined $250,000.
6102. So what year was that? When did that happen?
1932?
Yeah.
That's a guess. But
A while
the point
back.
is, I mean, yeah, before my parents and even my parents' parents. And that's part of the problem, is that we're all raised thinking like, oh, my assets will never get taken. Because they haven't really in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And the government's kind of played they've at least made it seem like they've been playing fair.
Right.
But in reality, they totally can. And it happens. It's happened in the past, whether we were alive or not. And it's happened just in the history of currencies. It's happened.
Right. So, like, we're saying, people will say, oh, they'll never do that. But we just went over how they are doing it slowly every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would honestly rather have someone come and knock on my door and say, okay, I'm going to be taking this now.
Rather
Right.
than doing
That
it
way I
behind
can
your
account
back.
for what the hell's being taken
Yeah.
from me.
Rather than doing it behind your back and tricking you and manipulating people.
And then when you catch them in the lie, they're like, oh, it's just, a stealth tax.
And by the way, we're doing it to make the infrastructure better, and it's gonna get a whole lot better. And where we grew up in Seattle or King County, or maybe this will get edited out, but where we grew up, there was construction on the major highways and roads where we grew up the entire time, our entire childhood. Like, it's not like, oh, we're gonna make it better.
Right.
Like, what are you working on?
I forget who talked about this. Someone talked about it. It might have been Sailor. But it's like, when they wanted the Empire State Building built, they built it as fast as they could. But then when they want, which is just a building that looks tall and looks cool, to show off.
It's a competition.
It's art.
But then when something that's actually like efficient for humans, like building a train from Southern California to Washington, it's like, all right, we'll give you $1 billion to do that, but you can take 20 years to do that. When it was like the Empire State Building, it was like, I don't know how long, 1 to 3 years, because they wanted it to get done, because they wanted to like power project.
In Japan, they take their infrastructure so seriously. Like, this is brilliant. This is honestly one of the most interesting things I've ever heard about a country doing, or a city, whatever. They took a species of mushroom and they put it like on a petri dish. And then what they did was they studied exactly how this, I think it was called mycelium. That's the type of mushroom it was. They put it on a petri dish and started growing it. And then they studied exactly how it grew. And in doing so, they learned how it could exactly stay together and which ways it would be most efficiently connected as it grew. The Japanese people literally studied this, and they connected that to, okay, we're going to build our railroad system in the exact same way based off of like the major cities in our country. And so they literally used the way mushrooms grow or fungus grow into how they're going to build their railroads. And they are the most efficient publicly transported community
That's
or
brilliant.
civilization in the world.
That's
So
brilliant.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't want to say this for sure, but what I believe is they are giving these throwing billions of dollars, saying, yeah, you can complete this project. It'll just take 20 years. So technically do what you want with the money.
Yeah.
As long as you build it in 20 years.
So, let's keep moving,
Yeah, we're a little off track.
because that was good. That was perfect. But in these moments of crisis, it's like we're seeing gold shoot up to 2,700. Everybody wants hard assets because they know what crisis does to the dollar. The bailouts, how many dollars they have to print in order to get us out of whatever recessionary crisis event that they literally create from the effects of money creation itself. They literally say, oh, we're going to create more money to solve the problems that we created by creating money. So we're in a vicious cycle where the crises are getting more significant and more often
Compounded.
the longer that this cycle continues. So we're approaching this next crisis event, and people are searching for hard assets. But
Safe security.
what is the hardest asset humanity has ever encountered?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah. So that's why we're here today telling people about Bitcoin, is because gold, which has served as a monetary instrument for thousands of years, has a stock to flow ratio of 69. Stock to flow meaning the existing stockpile of gold divided by the annual inflow of new stock, new gold that they mine that year. That makes a stock to flow ratio of 69. So the higher the stock to flow ratio, the harder the asset. Bitcoin, after its most recent halving in April, has just become the hardest asset humanity's ever encountered at 113 stock to flow ratio. But what we also have gone over is that there's a halving every 4 years and a fixed supply of 21 million. So what that means is the stock to flow ratio is not just 113, but it's also trending every 4 years. It's more than doubling and trending towards infinity.
Has there ever been anything that has had a fixed supply?
The Mona Lisa.
Time. So there's two things in the world that have fixed supply. Time time on Earth and 21 million Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, but there's also only one Mona Lisa. So like you can say that there are other scarcities.
It's getting more and more difficult. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. But you can copy the Mona Lisa, but like that's where the verification comes into play.
Yeah, but then everybody in the world can't own a part of the Mona Lisa.
Right.
So Bitcoin's a monetary instrument that can touch the lives of everybody in the world. And it has an absolute scarcity fixed supply of 21 million. And we're trying to communicate how significant that is to the world. And what that actually means for its monetary value use case. And
so explain more on the stock to flow. And so you went into the fixed supply, but a lot of people would say, well, we have to dig gold out of the ground. That's what makes it that's what makes it so hard. But it's like, in reality, when there's a demand for gold, then there will be more resources allocated towards digging the gold out of the ground. So the supply will always meet the demand. And that's kind of what's been that's what's happened the past thousands of years since we've had gold. And now there's a new hardest asset.
Right.
And it's Bitcoin.
Right. So
that instead of digging it out of the ground, it's on a schedule of 10 minutes. Talking about mining now. It's on a schedule of 10 minutes and it's backed by energy, not dirt.
Right.
You just got to have a computer plugged in.
Well, yeah, so if the price of gold goes to 3,000 here in these next few weeks, more people are going to start mining gold, which then increases it decreases the stock to flow ratio because more gold is being mined. So it kind of settles the parabolic moves of gold. Obviously there's a lag between the supply catching up with the demand. But the fact that when the value goes up, you can mine more gold. And gold is technically infinite because all you have to do is dig a little bit deeper and you find more.
Yep.
But Bitcoin, which also contributes to the volatility of Bitcoin, is like when the demand goes up, you can't go mine more. There's going to be exactly the same amount of Bitcoin being added to circulation on a schedule, no matter how many people want it. And what that means to where the price could go is, like they say, gradually, then suddenly, when everybody figures out what Bitcoin is and realizes that it's the greatest savings technology that humanity's ever created or encountered, it's like everybody wants to save their time and energy in Bitcoin. And when that is triggered, you can't sell fake money for real money anymore.
Yep. So, it's not like we're saying gold is like the worst thing ever. It's just that there's something out there that's better.
Yeah.
There's something that follows the exact same thesis that is going to give you a better return.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more,
So it's like Bitcoin has the same properties of gold, but it's even better. So let's talk about that.
So then, money tends to gravitate to one, because there's no reason to store your value in something that is less effective at storing your value. If it was a flat out choice, put my money here and lose money every year, or put my money here and appreciate every year, it's pretty freaking simple.
Well, I mean, just because we're going on the store of value, I'm going to go on my time and energy little spiel.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because to me, I look at store of value, like we talked about earlier, how there's, like it used to be, there's two things that are certain: death and taxes, which is just ridiculous that was implanted into all of our brains.
Program.
But the truth is that it's death and 21 million Bitcoin. And the reason that's important is because, like I said, time is the only other true scarcity on Earth. So if we have this thing, humans have created this thing called money, in which we store our time and energy into. Like when we all go to our jobs, we spend time and energy and whatever skill we have to create money, which is literally us storing our time and energy into money. So as soon as they increase the supply of money, like printing dollars out of thin air, they are literally extracting time and energy from you, and you're losing time and energy on Earth. And to me, that is what got me into Bitcoin. That was the one like logical truth that hit me, and I was like, I am not letting anyone take my time and energy. And I think that's a great way of looking at store of value.
I think that's just about the only way when you put it like that.
Yeah, just take the zoom out approach.
Because otherwise
Most
you're
basic.
Yeah, and like otherwise, if you're not living like that, you're literally telling yourself and everyone that you're around that, I mean, you don't really care about what you do ever.
Yeah, and the more time we can get back to ourselves when it's not stolen, the more time we have to do great things in this world. And it's part of the reason why this world will become so much more abundant, is because people will have so much more time to do good things.
They'll have the time to figure out what they're truly passionate about.
Right. Everyone can do they can become their own entrepreneur.
It's freedom.
Spending time. Yeah, they have the choice to choose.
Like when we were younger,
Freedom to
because of our families and because of our parents, because of everything, we all were given the freedom to kind of pick and choose like what we were most interested in. And for you, it was soccer. For you, it was football. For me, it was baseball. And we're all testaments to, like, we dedicated a lot of time to each of those things, and we were each very passionate about those things, and we got pretty damn good at it. We were good at those specific things, and that was because we were given the opportunity to have the freedom to dedicate all that time and energy into what we were most passionate about at that time.
Yeah, we were blessed.
We were blessed.
So then that really is what Bitcoin does, is it's freedom technology. That's why it's the most American thing that we have, is because property rights is the basis of all rights, like the Ayn Rand quote.
Yep.
And without property rights, there is no other implementation of
Freedom.
So
Yeah, if someone can take your property, you are not free.
So that's what Bitcoin is the restoration of property rights for 8 billion people, because it touches every single person on Earth, or it can. And that's part of what we need to build towards being able to do, because the base layer can't scale for everybody yet. And then layers are coming on top so that everybody can use it. And eventually it will work as the medium of exchange, because we're not sitting here arguing that Bitcoin is the superior medium of exchange today, right now. Everybody should buy everything in Bitcoin. Everybody should use Bitcoin for everything. We're not saying that. We're saying today the most superior store of value is Bitcoin, because of what we've just discussed.
And you could say you don't have an account.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have account too, but like not really today, because nothing is really priced in Bitcoin.
Oh, right.
So we still have to reprice the entire world in Bitcoin. So we don't even know what anything is worth.
Yeah, we
Bitcoin
don't know what
terms.
1/21 millionth of the world's wealth looks like yet.
Exactly.
We really don't.
And
Because-
the store of value aspect of Bitcoin, if we're just thinking about what money is and what we think of money in terms of medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value, the store of value aspect outweighs whatever else can be compared to it, like the dollar, because it's a unit of account. It's a medium of exchange, but it's a horrible store of value.
Right.
And just because Bitcoin is that good at storing value, it outweighs, and it incentivizes us to create the medium of exchange, to create the unit of account, which is going to happen.
Right.
Just like when the internet was born, a lot needed to be worked on to have what we have today.
So I have two things I want to say. One is that money is only a reflection of what it can buy. So money is only a reflection of the world's wealth. It's an instrument used to price the world in. That's the tool that we use it for. And then my second point is that the significance of an absolute scarcity of 21 million Bitcoin at the same time that everything else in the world doesn't have a fixed supply cap. As everything else in the world increases, for example, gold, but literally like tables, chairs, we can just create more of them. As everything in the world increases in supply, when we denominate it in the same exact 21 million Bitcoin, it's like the world's wealth is increasing, meaning one Bitcoin over time is going to purchase more of the world's wealth over time because the world's wealth is growing and the fixed supply, the absolute scarcity, stays the same. Does that make sense?
So if I have a Bitcoin, I can actually, whether I create it or someone else creates it, it creates more chairs. Because my Bitcoin is worth more, so they will be incentivized to create more whatever I want, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, the incentives are aligned for people to produce goods for others.
Right.
Because the only way to acquire value is to serve others. You can't steal it from others anymore on a Bitcoin standard.
Right.
So it incentivizes people to work for others. But I'm also saying that at the same time, that incentive increases the supply of chairs because people want to build chairs for others. And then that increased supply of chairs means that a higher supply divided by 21 million means that 1/21 millionth is more chairs than it was before the supply of chairs increased.
It creates a completely free market where supply and demand meet each other.
Where they're unimpeded in finding their equilibrium.
There's no manipulation.
Yes.
It's peer-to-peer what I want to supply and what the demand there is for.
Right. Without a third party saying, you make this, I'll take this, then we'll give you some money to make this, and then, do this and that, and then they're just pulling all these strings, trying to manage something that only God can do. So that's what Bitcoin is relinquishing the control of the economy to God.
To the natural laws of the universe.
To nature.
Yeah.
To whatever is most beneficial for every actor and how they choose to contribute. Human action.
All right. Well, let's get back on the gold.
So
Comparing Bitcoin to gold.
I think, the last point that I had is like, if what we're saying is true, people will be like, oh, well, why doesn't everybody use this then? Because what we're saying is so obviously better. And like, oh, it's too good to be true.
Right. Well, and I might be cutting you off here,
It's okay.
but it's the exact same thing that happened with the internet. Like when the internet was introduced, I was in my father's ball sack. I don't think I was ready to be in any shape or form to be using the internet. But if I were, I think I would have been doing every single thing in my ability. Like, every single thing I could possibly do would be all centered around figuring out how to use that internet for my own good. Like, how is this going to make me better?
Whether it's investing, working on it because of the impact it has on the world, or just being a part of it. And that's what we realized with Bitcoin.
Yeah, building in the space so that everybody can be onboarded to it, but also so that, like, that's also the most lucrative thing that we could do is help other people use this technology, because it not only helps them, but it helps us. That's where the incentives are aligned, where the most profitable thing for us to do is to serve others.
Mm-hmm.
And we're positioning ourselves ahead of this wave of the entire world figuring out what Bitcoin is, and we're teaching them what Bitcoin is because it helps them.
Yeah, and I think, part of it, a lot of people will be like, well, who are these young 24-year-olds?
What do they know about managing money if they're 24 years old?
And I would say that we grew up on the internet, which was one of the most impactful things humans have created, and it created this source of information where we got all of the information, good and bad. And yeah, the internet can damage a lot of people, but it also, like, for us, we got blessed in realizing that we can use, or that we got the information to where we got to decide, and we were raised by good people where we got to decide on what is good and bad. And we found Bitcoin to be really good and really true. And yeah.
It's our opinion that we just want to share it with every single person we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And it will change the lives of every single person that chooses to adopt it and chooses to live on a Bitcoin standard rather than a fiat, corruption, theft-based standard.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, the least we could ever ask anyone is to at least open yourself up to possibly learning more about it, at least on your own. Like, not just acting like you heard what we said and it's going in and you're like, no, for a lot of people it's really like in one ear out the other. But it's like the least we could ask you to do is to at least try to digest this information that we are choosing to share because we feel it's most important.
Yeah, and don't listen to the media.
Mainstream media is going to lead you astray.
I mean, if this is a tangent that needs to be cut out, let's do it. But let's just go into real life examples as to how the media has led us astray our entire lives.
Bitcoin's a scam.
Yeah, I mean, before our lives, email. No one thought email was going to work. Look at it now. The internet. No one thought the internet was going to work. Look at it now. Like, we have a picture, photo evidence of an article in 2001 saying Bitcoin or the internet is just a fad. It's like, what do you think Bill Gates was doing when you think he was reading those news articles?
And being like, oh yeah, Microsoft is a bust. I should not keep pursuing this route.
Stop. So yeah, it's like Bitcoin is everything people don't understand about computers paired with everything people don't understand about money. So we just simply take a second look. Dig a little bit deeper. Do your own research. Understand, watch some podcasts, read some books. The Bitcoin Standard is an amazing place to start. And you have the opportunity to secure your Bitcoin. Acquire Bitcoin with fiat fake money. Acquiring real money and securing it for the foreseeable future before the rest of the world realizes what it actually is.
Is it accurate to say that only 5 million human beings on planet Earth have a wallet of 0.1 Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Is that accurate to say?
I think it's less, but close to 5 million. Yeah.
With that in mind, I find it hard to believe that most people like have a hard time finding that exciting to be a part of that group of trailblazers.
Right.
And they're all really good people.
I mean, we can't say all. We can't say all.
Well, okay.
A lot of
At least,
Bitcoiners.
yeah, a lot of the Bitcoiners want it to work. They have hope for the future.
Mhm.
And a lot of people that don't know what Bitcoin is, they don't know there's a solution to many of their problems, because money is something that touches all of the things in this world.
Mhm.
And a lot of the problems in the world are because money is flawed. Or at least money can be something that fixes that, a better form of money. And Bitcoin is that money that can, or is that thing that can make money better, and which will touch all of those problems that are in the world and make them all not problems.
Thus, fix the money, fix the world.
And we can all agree that growing up, we heard the idea that I never want to have kids. I never want to bring children into this world. I never want to bring kids into this world. This world's too dark and too like. Who do you? That is not God. That is not a higher. That is not a good higher being in control. That is a dark, powerful being that is making us all believe that we should not be producing the fruit of this world.
Well, I would say to that, even if you do think that, if you think the world's going to end or whatever, it's like you may as well go out trying to do something good.
Exactly.
Or, yeah, like what would Jesus want you to do? Like sit around and complain?
Are we all just conditioned from a young age to just throw in the towel and start participating in a system that we all deep down know that there is something awry. There is something wrong.
Well, and before Bitcoin, there was no solution. So I could see why a lot of people think
Gave
that
up.
way.
Nihilism.
And they still don't know that there's a solution. And that's like what we're trying to do, is be like, guys,
There is a tiny burning ember that we need to grow into the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's put on all of us. Like, it's
Yeah.
all of our responsibility to make sure that this continues to grow. Because if it is really what we choose to believe is true, then why would we not do everything we can to spread this to everyone?
Exactly.
And it's like once you hear of a truth and you start, or I guess you just ignore it. Like for me, if I eat a bunch of ice cream and cookie dough, I feel bad about it after. Feel good going in, but you feel guilt. Like guilt is a thing.
Yeah.
So if you have information that ice cream and cookie dough is bad for you, and you're gonna have consequences to eating that, then you probably shouldn't eat it. Or at least eat it, or at least if you do eat it, you feel bad about it, and you don't want to feel bad about it. So it's like, now that you hear this truth, which we are trying to do, is throw the truth in people's face, so that, yeah, people will feel guilty. People do feel guilty of not at least exploring the idea of Bitcoin, learning about it. Like, if it's the least you can do to feel less guilty, like, you got to do that.
But it's also the idea that everybody's going to get Bitcoin at the price they deserve.
Yeah.
Because when Bitcoin accumulates the majority of the world's wealth, it's not a choice anymore.
And that is the harsh reality. Is like, you're either going to get on the boat when it's leaving the beach, or you're going to be building a life raft out of frickin' recyclables, trying to learn how to float the tide out to the damn boat that's already frickin' miles off the coast.
Either way,
I'm spitting on the mic.
Either way, it's like this technology will be adopted, and it will accumulate the majority of the world's wealth. It's just your choice on when you're willing to accept it.
When are you willing to take the leap of faith?
When can you have the humility to be like, okay, you know what? We can actually change. I can actually change. What's that Einstein quote?
The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. So yeah, like society starts with the individual, not the other way around. There's no such thing as society without the people that make it up. So if you want to see change in society, the individual has to change. You can't sit around complaining about society when you haven't changed. You have to be the change. And then that spreads like a fire, where people see that, like, oh, that person just gave me hope to change. And that's what we're trying to do.
Every single human being has a choice. No matter what you're trying to pick between, you're the person deciding it.
They're all decisions all day, every day, everything we do.
And it's something like, this is something where people are going to realize that there's a lot of decisions that have been made for them.
Yeah. And it's honestly like, it sucks. Like it hurts to go at your ego and be like, I was wrong, or like I got hurt. Like, you just have to like accept it and then do something about it, rather than play the victim card, you know?
It's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility.
It's where
responsibility.
Yeah, and it's where complacency comes in. It's like, we all have the ability to take action at any given moment, at like forever.
The quicker that you respond, the better off the outcome is likely to be.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else that we wanted to touch on?
I mean, I think we didn't go at all into Bitcoin and gold.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Let's
just...
just do another one.
Yeah, we can
Take a
put
break.
together like a literally like a presentation, Bitcoin versus gold.
Yeah, I think that's or just a podcast about it.
Yeah.
And then a presentation.
This did feel extremely constructive.
Oh, actually, there was one more point I wanted to make, was that given the fact that we realize what's going on, and that Bitcoin is the only true scarcity, real money, it's going to accumulate the majority of the world's wealth, and how we can leverage that knowledge to acquire more Bitcoin through the equities market is how we're managing our fund.
Yeah.
And the cyclical nature of Bitcoin, even though it's dollar-denominated prices, it's like that can allow us to accumulate more Bitcoin just by executing the trades in a timely fashion of the equities to buy the Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy constantly accumulating Bitcoin and trading at multiples of what Bitcoin's return is, and then using those returns to pile back into Bitcoin. It's a brilliant strategy, and we want to bring that to people. We want to help people and allow them to take advantage of that opportunity, and also allow us to do it for them and take our performance allocation so that we can continue to do what we want to do and share this knowledge and build technology so that we can scale Bitcoin to the world.
Yeah, I'd say it's the opportunity that matters right now.
We just recognize that we absolutely know we want to be a part of this.
Like we low-key feel like we're set. Like, for what if we know what Bitcoin is, what we think it is. Like, we don't need anyone else's money, and that's part of our characters. We want to just help people.
We want to build a brighter future.
Obviously, yeah, we want to be part of the building part of it, but it's also about helping people. And right now is the best opportunity to use fake money and buy real money, because in the future that opportunity is going to be gone. So that's the opportunity at hand.
And yeah, like we could just sit on our Bitcoin, and then just ride this wave to the top and just be set for ourselves. But that's not what money was for. And that's not what God wants us to do. So,
And it's just like the analogy, and I hate doing this because I don't know the specific comedian's name, but there is a comedian who made the idea that, if you're someone who believes the path to heaven is through Jesus Christ, and you don't share that with others, like how much do you really love other people? Like, if that is what you truly believe as an individual, that you know that through Jesus Christ you will reach heaven, you will live forever in eternity. Like, why would you not share that with as many people as you possibly can?
mm-hmm.
It's for us. We're talking about Bitcoin on Earth creates this heaven on Earth, and we want to share that.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
All right.
That's a wrap.
I think that's a wrap.
Nice job, guys.
That was freaking great.